Hello and welcome to Up the Turnpike, your source for New York Islanders content, both here on YouTube and on Patreon. Patreon.com/UpTheTurnpike, where you get podcasts twice a week, a Friday six-pack, a dedicated Discord server, and so much more specifically during the regular season. Sign up today, don't miss out. In today's video, what we're doing is we're looking at 5 players that could have been for the New York Islanders. What we mean by that is players that we had control over, and we just let go for some reason or another. We'll go from more concrete examples to a little bit speculative near the end. And it all starts off with what is an obvious inclusion in this list in Carter Verhaeghe. I think that makes sense to everyone. We sent Michael Grabner to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we got a bunch of their contracts because they needed to shed contracts off the books because they were at, I think, the max like a 50 at the time. We got Verhaeghe, Chris Gibson, Tom Nilsson, Tyler Beck, Matthew Finn. Most of those guys didn't play for us. Gibson was really the only one. Verhaeghe never even played for the New York Islanders, which is a problem, as you will all have seen this year, because Carter Verhaeghe won a Stanley Cup. His second Stanley Cup, by the way. Carter Verhaeghe has 2 Stanley Cups to his name. The other one with the Tampa Bay Lightning, of course. But there's obviously a reason why he's on that list. Like, you look at this player, at least over the last 2 years with the Florida Panthers, 73 points and 42 goals 2 years ago, 34 goals and 72 points last year, 249 points in 330 games. And we had him. Of course, we weren't the only ones who just had him, right? The Toronto Maple Leafs were one. The Tampa Bay Lightning as well had him. He had 13 points on 52 games when he played for Tampa, but was only playing 9:22 a night. He got basically another 10 minutes a night with Florida and went off 36 points in 43 games. Like, there was clearly always a good player there, and we just gave up on him. Of course, again, we weren't the only ones, but we just gave up on him for no reason. It really stinks that we just let him go. Or sorry, we didn't just let him go. We traded him for some random AHL goaler, Christos Gudlevskis, that we never really used or got any use out of. So we let a 40-goal NHLer go for an AHL backup that we rarely used. It really stinks. It really does. That is an Islander that could have been for sure. The next one, number 2 on the list, is Jared Spurgeon, a guy we drafted in 2008. Of course, all the way in the 6th round. Now look at the number of picks we made that year. That's mainly because we moved back in the first round twice. We had the 5th overall pick that year. We traded it to Toronto, who drafted Luke Shen, I believe. We then traded the pick we got from Toronto, which I think was 8th overall, to the Nashville Predators, who had the 9th overall pick. Nashville drafted Colin Wilson or something like that. I think that's his name. Either way, not an impactful player at the NHL level. And we obviously got Joshua Legend Elite Bailey. So excellent stuff from us. Anyways, Jared Spurgeon has played 867 games so far in his NHL career, 384 points. Hell of a player. Excellent defender for the Minnesota Wild. Obviously is part of their leadership core. And we just didn't sign him. We drafted him. We took a look at him, but we just didn't sign him. We're like, no, we're good. And then Minnesota's like, we'll try him out. Oh, look, it's a really good player. A guy we let go for free. At least with Carter Verhaeghe, we got something for him, even if that something wasn't useful at all. This, we just let go. Sure, 6th round pick, but like still, you got to hold on to those if there's something there. And it's clear there was at least something there, because the Minnesota Wild did not wait 2 seconds to try him out and take him on board, which really sucks for us. Number 3 here, we're getting maybe a little bit more speculative, and you'll see what I mean in a second. But a name that we have to have on this list of Islanders that could have been, and that's Jason Spezza. Obviously, Jason Spezza, Zdeno Chara, Bill McCall go to the Senators we get Alexei Yashin, who was fine, right? He was okay for the couple of years that he was here. He wasn't here for the full length of his career, or what could have been, I suppose, although injuries really kind of derailed that. But we did lose out on, sure enough, just in and of itself, what is going to be a Hall of Fame career in Zdeno Chara. We only ever got him when he was basically on his last leg. And Jason Spezza, who was a 90-point player twice, right? Let me bring up the numbers so you can see. Jason Spezza here, twice a 90-point player, could have easily been more than that, right? 87 points in 67 games. That's a stupidly good season for those Ottawa Senators back in 06-07. Now, I know it took some time for him to get to the NHL because the Islanders, right, like the draft was in 2001, and he didn't make the NHL full-time until 03-04. But that's because the Ottawa Senators had what I refer to as a Lou Lamoriello ideology or philosophy when it came to prospects. There's such a thing as bringing up a prospect too soon, and there's such a thing as bringing a prospect up too late. Yeah, either way, you get what I'm saying. I flubbed that massively. The Ottawa Senators thought that Spezza wasn't ready just yet, and he needed a little bit more time before jumping into the NHL, which is what happened. He didn't jump until 03-04, and he went off 55 points, 22 goals in his first year. Imagine what that could have been for the New York Islanders. We might have had to wait a little bit longer, but it's clear that the ownership group was not willing to wait even for a second. We needed playoff hockey, and we needed it now. But what could have been in Jason Spezza would have been outstanding. Jason Spezza and Zdeno Chara instead of a couple years of Alexei Yashin. That would have been nice. The next one, going a little bit more speculative here, and not too much, but you'll see what I mean, is Brad Marchand. Now, you're going to say, like, that sounds pretty friggin' speculative, Mitch. But we had the pick that was used to get him. We got that from the Arizona Coyotes because we sent Oleg Kvasha to them and a conditional fifth, which they used to draft Brett Bennett. Anyways, and we had the pick, the 2006 71st overall that was used to draft Brad Marchand. So technically, we probably could have drafted him. Maybe we go in a different direction when we actually get to the table if we make that pick. But we obviously didn't make that pick. We never drafted Brad Marchand because we sent that pick over to the Boston Bruins for a 4th-round pick that year and a 5th-round pick as well in James Delory, which was what we used to draft, and Shane Sims. Now, when we compare Brad Marchand to James Delory and Shane Sims, it is a one-sided comparison. So the comparison between Brad Marchand, Shane Sims, and James Delory. P.S. James Delory is not here because he never played a game at the NHL level. Shane Sims played one game, just the one, put up no production whatsoever, no awards or honors. Obviously, Brad Marchand, the one NHL championship, Stanley Cup in 2011, made the All-Star game a few times, or I believe that might be the All-Star team, which is a different thing. 1,000 games already, 929 points, a hell of a player. Sure, he's a rat. He's a massive rat. But he's a rat that all of us want. Maybe not the licking in the face thing, but outside of that, hell of a player. He's clearly a player you want on your team. And what that could have done for the Islanders would have been amazing. Maybe he doesn't become the player he is now on the Islanders. We can never tell, and that's kind of the speculative angle, if you will. But hell of a player. It would have been nice to have him. Number 5 on our list, and final one here is I'm going, maybe again, a little speculative, if you will. It's in 2004, we acquired Alexander Karpovtsev. I mispronounced Karpovtsev. My God, that's hard to do, the V and a T. For what was a pick used to draft Nicholas Hjalmarsson. And I don't know if you know anything about Nicholas Hjalmarsson, but he was a hell of a good player. He doesn't have the points because that's really just not his game. He's Adam Pelech before Adam Pelech existed. Look at that face. That is the mold of Adam Pelech. There's no hair. There's nothing. That looks like Adam Pelech. But 172 points in 821 games. Doesn't sound great, I guess, but defensive defenseman. 3 Stanley Cups sounds pretty goddamn good, though, doesn't it? Just never elite, right? 26 points is maybe his best season ever, which sounds, again, a whole lot like Adam Pelech. An average maybe 20 to 22 minutes a night, which is what you need from a shutdown defenseman. The Islanders could have had that. They really could have. For Karpov, let me do the comparison here just to see, because Stev doesn't really stand out to me. So if I do Hjalmarsson for whoops, I can't type. Karpov to Sev. My God, get results. Let's see what we get in terms of a comparable. So there you go. Karpov Stev played 596 games. So this is all stuff I didn't even know about this player. Has a championship. Has some pretty good numbers in terms of offense. More goals than Hjalmarsson, although not a whole lot. So let's look him up. Let me learn something as we go. Karpov. There we go. So a cup winner, obviously not with us. Where did he win his Stanley Cup? Let me scroll down. He won it with the Rangers. Oh, gross. He won it with the Rangers. So 38 points is seemingly his best season. Again, for those gross Rangers. 9 goals, 29 helpers. So we got a good-ish then, right? We got him when he was 33. So good-ish is an argument that can be made. Only averaged 10 minutes for us. So think about that. We got a guy who averaged 10 minutes and 54 seconds when we acquired him, and then didn't play for another full year, where he only ever played 6 games, for what became Nicholas Hjalmarsson. Again, it's a bit more speculative, of course, but what could have been is, instead of drafting Karpov and getting him for like half a second, really, we could have got a guy who would eventually be what would arguably be his superior, if not at very least his equal. You know, obviously not in cups, but when you look at some of the comparables in productions, comparable. We could have had Karpov in a couple of years, but we rushed the gun and we missed out on Nicholas Hjalmarsson, which kind of stinks. But I'm sure there are more Islanders that could have been out there that you're screaming like, what about this guy? Tell me in the comments and we'll make another one of these. So thank you for watching. Thank you for following along, and we'll see you soon.